So people say conspiracy theories, but some conspiracies aren't just far-fetched, they're real. So
They're
this
realities.
is why people...
I look for protection from Allah.
Yeah. A pandemic like this, I feel, magnifies existing deficiencies, defects, inequalities within a system. And if we were looking at some of the statistics that are being reported from all over your country, including Michigan, the Carolinas, Illinois, Louisiana, New Jersey, New York, Wisconsin, they report that black people are dying at a far greater rate than other races, okay? Oh, especially if you compare it to white people. And of course, there are probably what you're seeing in Michigan, because you have such a large black population, is again a manifestation of that. Now, what you mentioned, that per capita, that you are getting more deaths, is this something that is because of this pandemic, or is this because this is something that is in terms of like the inequality in treating black people? Is this something that is systemic, and the pandemic is only sought to amplify that?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think there's two shades to it. And so Detroit, Michigan in particular, is America's blackest city. So it's 80% black. The entire state of Michigan is only 12% black, yet 77% of the deaths in the state of Michigan have been black people. And it disproportionately affected Detroit. So there's two things. There is, and you might say both. One of them you could say is systemic, and I'll use another term of legacy. So the systemic issue is that it is true that the access to healthcare for people in Detroit is at a much lower level and quality than people in suburbs. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Now, the other thing is that, and just being frank with you, and Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran, "Kulu qawlan sadida," that we have to speak a straight word and direct word. There are a lot of people who are in Detroit who actually did not believe media reports, and actually did not believe what the government said, and for reason, because in the black community, there in Detroit in particular, but there's a natural distrust for what the government says and what edicts and orders they put out. Why? Because there's been so much lying and government manipulation that it's hard for the people to readily believe all of what the government says regarding certain things, because it's seen as a means of deception or as a means of controlling people, right? So that's in the backdrop of why many people in Detroit proper are like, you know what? I don't believe this, or people start buying into certain conspiracy theories. But the reality is there have been certain conspiracies that have been instituted upon African Americans, right? So
no doubt.
So people say conspiracy theories, but some conspiracies aren't just far-fetched, they're real. So this is why the realities, this is why many people just distrusted what was said initially. And I think that this led to perhaps a spreading in certain highly densely populated areas of African Americans.
Do I feel that the New York police are providing enough protection, or do I have to have protection of my own? I look for protection from Allah.